Since launching his campaign, Joe Biden has enjoyed the lead on top of most polling, showcasing these 2020 Democratic candidates. But that is now beginning to change. So Biden continues to lose support as people learn more about him and his past. You have to understand, a lot of the support that Joe Biden initially had was because of name recognition and his attachment to Barack Obama. But every time Joe Biden opens his mouth, he loses a little more support. And there is now a new poll out of Ipsos and Daily Beast showing that Bernie Sanders is actually polling better against Donald Trump than Joe Biden is. So taking a look at it here, you see Joe Biden is still has a nice comfortable lead over Donald Trump with an 11-point lead over Donald Trump. But Bernie Sanders has a 12-point lead over Donald Trump. And if you break these numbers down even further, so before I even get to the breakdown, understand here that most polls undersample young voters because what they tend to do is they poll existing registered Democrats and registered voters. So someone like Bernie Sanders, who appeals to non-voters, and many independents who in many cases also are non-voters, that doesn't show through in a lot of these polls. So even knowing that these polls tend to favor older voters, Bernie is still leading here in terms of a matchup against Donald Trump. And when you look closer, you see that so Bernie excites more Democrats, which if you sample more young voters, that number would even be larger. But also, Biden only appeals to 1% more Republican voters than Bernie Sanders does, which completely throws out the window this idea that, oh, Biden's a good candidate because he appeals to voters across the aisle. If it's by 1 point and Bernie Sanders is bringing out 2% more Democrats, and I think that number, as I said, is actually larger because he brings out more younger voters and non-voters, then that entire argument goes out the window. You do not need and you should not try to appeal to conservative voters because as we've seen with the Democrats that do that over and over again, under Nancy Pelosi, over 8 years, they lost 1,000 seats. Under Hillary Clinton, obviously she ran to the center, lost her race against Donald Trump. Appealing to conservative voters doesn't work. You have to actually excite the base, and Bernie Sanders is showing that here. Now, if you compare the other candidates, I mean, it gets kind of crazy. So Pete Buttigieg actually loses right now to Donald Trump by 2 points. Amy Klobuchar loses to Donald Trump by 2 points. Elizabeth Warren defeats Trump, but not by much. And Kamala Harris defeats Trump by only 1% less than Elizabeth Warren does. So there are two clear leaders here in this race. Right now, it's Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. And I think that gap is going to, or at least the support that Biden has is going to continue to drop after the debates. When we see Biden and Bernie on the same stage, it's going to really show you how different these two candidates are. I mean, most of you watching me know this already, but a lot of people that don't follow politics very closely, many of them see Biden and Bernie as very similar candidates because they think that Biden is a working class guy, just like Bernie Sanders is, even though his history does not show that. Biden's votes does not show that. Biden working with the credit card companies, with Wall Street, voting for the Iraq War, being the architect of the crime bill. I mean, Joe Biden is not your average dude. Joe Biden is your typical politician who has the veneer of a working class guy. But that's going to be completely exposed on the debate stage against Bernie Sanders. So I'm going to continue watching these polls, see how it all progresses. But understand right now, if you're worried about Joe Biden's lead, I wouldn't worry about that too much longer.